Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Gold Country from Bitewing Games. I swear the box really does say Gold Country, although I sometimes have to tilt the box for it to catch the light, but that's just on the video, on the camera. In person, you can see it well. Anyways, Gold Country is a game designed by Reiner Knizia. It's a 2 to 4 player game of stock markets, I guess. It's stock market. It's what's the term? There's a term for this on BGG. It's like market forecasting. No, there's market prediction, market something. It's something. You're trying to deal with markets that are changing based on the players. Speculation. Market speculation. I think that's the term. Anyways, before we dive into it, this is a prototype. All rules and components subject to change. I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. And also, this channel is sponsored by Allplay. We'll talk more about them at the end of the video. But with that, Gold Country is a game from Bitewing Games, designed by Reiner Knizia, art by Beth Sobel? Yeah, artwork by Beth Sobel, and it's a game for 2 to 4 players in which you are speculating on the value of these different gold mines, hence the Gold Country and all that. You see, you have 4 different gold mines: Yuba Mine, Browse Bar, Sutter's Mill, and Kelsey's Diggings. These companies all start at value 5, and through the course of play, the value will go up and down, and you start with a stock of each of them. You also start with a secret stock that no one knows. In my case, I have Bidwell's Bar. Don't tell the other players though, that's important. Anyways, in the game, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be placing out your claim markers. You have behind your screen, you have claim markers. You're going to be drawing from this giant bag full of claim markers, and you place them down. But before or after placing down those claim markers, you can buy things or sell things. So for example, looking at the board, I have two whites over here plus 1 over here for Kelsey's Digging. So I'm going to be placing these on the board with some asterisks as far as how things work. Now, for example, looking here, I see that I can make the value of white jump. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to spend my money. You start the game with 20 money, and I'm going to spend some of my money over here, and I'm going to buy 2 stocks of Bidwell's Bar. Because again, you can make 2 purchases or sales, your choice. You can buy and sell, you can buy, you can sell. The only main rule is you have to do it either before or after you place your claim markers. You cannot split those up. You can't buy, place, sell. You can't buy, place, buy. You can do your purchases or sales before or after you place. So I'm going to buy 2 of these. I'm going to spend 10 money because the current value is 5. So if I'm buying 2 of them, that's $10. Then I will place these down over here like so. 1 and 2. Your first marker has to extend from the mine. Other markers have to extend from the mine or from other markers touching that mine. And then now I touch this, the value just jumped to 8. We struck gold. The value of these mines went up to 8. So by purchasing 2 for 5 apiece, they're now worth from 10 to 16. That is good money. That's good money in this game. That's what I'm going to do. But also I can place this one out. Now this is where we have the hardware store over here. The way this works is you always have 1 on the hardware store, and I can always take that and I can place whichever one of these I want. You're placing 3 a turn, but you have that 1 from the hardware store, and 1 has to return to the hardware store. In this case, I don't have strong feelings, so I'm going to put that back here, and I'm going to place this down over here. Nothing too crazy. It's drifting towards the -1. We'll see how things play out. The last thing you could do on your turn, and again, you have to place your claim markers. You could engage up to 2 transactions, and you could buy one of these cards. So I could spend $3 to place any one of these abilities, returning tokens to the bag, placing other claim markers in these. These are one-time use transactions. Once you do so, you flip it over, it's gone. It costs you 3 gold to do so. There's only 9 of them, and those are 9 for the entire game. That's the game. That's the game. You're going to basically be trying to do that until game end is triggered. Now, I'm going to go a bit more into it, but the core idea of the game is every single round, you have 3 claim markers. They go behind your screen. You're going to be placing them out. You're trying to manipulate the value of mines, and you're trying to pay attention to what other players are doing. If I see that someone just went in on Bidwell's Bar, the other players, they have a choice. They can start trying to sell their stocks right away and trying to tank the market, because someone else, for example, when it gets to the next player's turn, depending on what they have behind their screen, they might sell their white and then try to tank the value of white, knowing that I am holding on to a bunch of white. And so you are watching the market dynamically adjust up or down, as well as having payouts and costs as you play the game. You see, the different types of markers you have is you have markers that increase the value, markers that decrease the value. As you hit things like this, you're going to have to pay $2. To mine cave-in, you have to pay $2 per share you own. So this doesn't affect the value of your shares. You just literally have to pay money to fix the mine cave-in. But you also have these over here. These are the reverse of that. You get $2 for every share you have. You also have these gold veins. These are going to be interesting because when you hit these, you add the bandits to the bag. These bandits are going to go into the bag, and then as they come out, they act as an opportunity to place them onto any markers, and they just destroy those markers entirely, which can be great. For example, if I have those, where I want those back over here, if I have these over here, for example, if somebody starts drifting my white, let's put this white down here, and they're trying to drift it towards a bunch of negatives, I can place this down to completely destroy a negative, removing it from the game, and removing it from the danger of affecting the value of my shares. You have this 5 over here, you have these other threes, and the game end is triggered either when the bag runs out of clay markers, or far more often, when the last of these veins is taken, that will trigger game end. And that's the game. You are trying to speculate on the value of these 4 mines. You're trying to impact the value of things that help you, either by raising the market for stocks you have an investment in, or alternatively by selling things and then tanking the value, or just tanking the value of stocks that other players have, while trying to be mindful of the different ways the mines are going to spread out, overlap, get in each other's way, and try to get your hands on those clay markers. When you're done with all that, there is another side of the board. Another side of the board which has rivers, has boats, has dynamites and gems, has a bunch of other tokens that elevates the amount of things happening at the table. Not recommended for your first game when you dive into this, but as soon as you get, like, honestly, once you play your first game, you can go straight to the second side. There's 1 page of extra rules. There's not a ton of extra stuff, but it does give you a lot more variability to the types of things that are happening as far as the tokens, so it adds an extra level of dimension to the game. But with that, let's go ahead and dive into my review of what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking. Starting off with what I like, it's satisfying to pull off these profit-driven moves. Even now in this, like, sample gameplay, I'm like, ooh, I'm going to buy 2 white and then raise the stock by 3. That's fun to do in the game, and it's fun to play the short game on simple moves like that. It's also fun to, like, you know, specifically sell a bunch of stuff before tanking the market, or try to get a bunch of dividends on a bunch of shares you have before selling them, before going ahead and buying one of these cards that allows you to gauge an extra transaction before you elevate or crash a stock. And so you're trying to work your way towards these different opportunities, and you have control in multiple mines. So you might use one mine to try to power things up, and the other mine to kind of move in there and take out all those negative point values that you could otherwise be encroaching on. So you really are feeding these different entities against each other, with you being able to play a hand in all of them. So it's satisfying to just try to drive the market in the way that works for you. It's one of those games that you want to be paying attention to what other players are doing. If you're the only one invested in a mine, it is usually not going to work out well for you. Well, it depends. A 2-player game is different, but ideally this game is better at 3 and 4. You want to play this at higher player counts. You just have more dynamicness to the market. But if you're the only one going into something, you have to be aware that the other players are going to be getting in your way. This game can get mean quickly, which for me is a fun thing. We'll talk about it later for others, but for me it's a fun thing because you really have to be mindful of something that seems like, oh, look, I'm just going to elevate the blue mine and make it super powerful and awesome. That's great in theory, but in practice, other players are going to try to stop you, so you really have to be working in tandem with other players as you try to grow or tank the value of any given share. And the tile types in the base game are a little straightforward, but the second side of the board does give you a bit more dynamicness to the market. I think the first game is a little bit more stale after a play or two, but there's a little bit more going on the other side of the board, so it gives you some degree of extra replayability on that side. But overall, this is very much a game about knowing when to buy and sell. This is a stock market game. This is a, what was the word for it? A market speculation game. And it's one that ultimately comes down to being able to see where different things, well, 4 different things specifically, the 4 mines, seeing different mines of where their value is headed, trying to take hand in those, and then trying to time your transactions around all of those moves as you play the game. As far as things I don't like in the game, the main thing for me is that it's a little too clean. This game is very straightforward as far as what it's doing. And I do like the second side of the board more. Again, there's a few extra tokens there that give you a bit more things that are going on. But ultimately, the game is pretty straightforward. You try to drive your claims towards tokens that will help you elevate the stocks you want or tank the stocks you don't want. You are a little bit more victim to what actually comes out and how you're going to utilize those. You could be really working towards a nice strong white play, and you might not get the white tiles. You also can have times where somebody gets 3 tiles of a color. Having 3 tiles of one color in the game can really give you so much control over what happens that turn compared to having 2 and 1. Again, granted, board setup is always a factor, but because you're limited to 2 transactions a turn, being able to dynamically strongly affect one color in one shot, 3 tiles is such a huge part of the game. And so it's a little luck driven as far as what you get. It's very straightforward as far as what the game is doing. I enjoy it, but even with the second side of the board, it's a very, very clean. Honestly, it feels very Knizia-like in how it's done, and I think while that works for some tile laying games for me, I think with the market speculation aspect, it's a little too clean. It's a little bit too just mathing out those transactions as much as possible. And the end game, I will say, having played this a bunch of times, the end game, more often than not for me, the end game can feel a bit stale. Like, the market's kind of played itself out, players have worked their way towards those transactions, and I do find that very often the last few turns are like, okay, we've all liquidated our shares, or we've done what we can with those colors, and now we're just trying to get to that end game state. So that's going to be the other thing I don't love about the game. As far as I can see others not liking, I mentioned already, the game can be very cutthroat. That part doesn't bother me. I kind of like that aspect. Oh, really? You invested in a bunch of blue and you have 7 blue stocks? Watch the market tank right now, because that absolutely can happen. It might not make this game work for you. For me, that's one of the things I actually do enjoy. You really have to, that's why I mentioned so many times, you have to play the players. If I see what you're doing, I see what they're doing, I really want to be mindful of the dynamics at the table and not just my own personal objectives in the game. And then I touched upon as well my own complaints, but the randomness of the bag, what you get at any given point. You get a bunch of bandits. That could be amazing sometimes. Other times it feels like a dead turn because you're not really able to do anything with the affecting the value. You're kind of able to fence things in with the bandits, but you're not necessarily able to affect your own stocks quite as much in a good way, which can feel stale. Again, and don't get me wrong, bandits can be very helpful. It just depends on when you get them. So the randomness of the bag is definitely a factor. The hardware store does a good job of giving you some degree of flexibility because there's always that one token you can proxy in and out. But sometimes that token is helpful. Other times that token is there because no one actually cares how blue is doing right now. It's just not well set up to fully adjust to the market. So it's not well set up. Anyways, as far as final thoughts go on Gold Country, overall I've enjoyed this. I do like stock-taking games, and Gold Country is no exception. I've enjoyed playing through it. I've enjoyed building up the various mines, trying to find those clever moves. My biggest complaint is that there doesn't seem to be a ton of room to grow. It feels like a very mathy stock-taking, or what was the word, market. It feels like a very mathed-out market speculation game where there's a clear guide rails on how far you can go with it. So it works strategically, but it is less exciting. For me, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. It is fun. I've enjoyed myself, but sometimes when it comes to a market speculation, sometimes I enjoy games that give a lot more that you can actually do as opposed to the streamlined nature of this very Knizia-like design, because it was designed by Knizia. As far as other game recommendations, if you want something in a similar vein, but possibly a bit more chaotic, check out Stockpile, an oldie but a goodie. And if you want a game that feels a lot more Eurified in how much is going on in the game, I think Clans of Caledonia, very different as far as the type of stock-taking game it is. It's more about your own engine, but there's definitely a dynamic market in play that overall felt very challenging and rewarding to engage in. And then I mentioned that Allplay is a channel sponsor. You can go to allplay.com and check out a variety of things they have, but they do have a bunch of games, both their own as well as from other publishers that they work with. But they have a few games that are in this vein, but definitely check out QE if you are looking for a game where the guardrails are completely gone. Completely, like, there's no guardrails in this game. Check out QE for a stock market game, a market speculation game that is complete chaos to play. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.